So as you guys know, I was a goalie in college, played men's league as well. And one rule I had is actually from one of my teammates who played college with me, played men's league with me after we graduated. And that was, if I let in 3 goals or less, we're in good shape. If I let in more, not in good shape. And this is for men's league. Like college, I could do a little better than that. Men's league, there's a few more unpredictable variables out on the ice. Like, let's be honest. But before every game, tell me 3 or less. You got it. And so as we went on and like played men's league together for the better part of a decade, like it was remarkably consistent. Like he was an accountant by trade, so I guess he probably knew what he was talking about. But if I let in 3 or less goals, he usually won. It's the same deal for the Red Wings this season. They are 5-0 when their goalies let in 3 or less, and they are 0-3 when they let in more than 3 goals. I say that not, being fully on the goalies. Like obviously, if you're being left out to dry by the defense or just the 5 skaters out on the ice, it's only so much a goalie can control. As an old coach once told me, goalies can't win games; they can only lose them. And love that motivation for a young, impressionable 15-year-old, right? Yeah, I think that needs to be the Detroit's motto the rest of the season: 3 or less. They're undefeated when they hold themselves to that standard. And I think I lost count after 4 on Thursday night here about how many goals they let in, but it's more than 3.
So what you're saying is 7 is bad.
Last time I checked, it was more than 3.
Let's try to keep the touchdowns in football, right? Maybe keep them at Ford Field.
I know, and I'm sure people, listening to this episode figure there probably wouldn't be too much math today, but we're throwing numbers out, guys.
I was told there would be no math.
Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast.
Welcome to episode 57 of the Flying Octopus Podcast, the David Perron episode, or if you fancy, the Timu Pulkkinen edition. I'm your host, Evan Sabrin, joined as always by my co-host, Devin Little and Tony Wolak. A lot has happened in Red Wings land since we last talked. On today's episode, we'll recap the week that was, for the most part, impressive on the front end and very, very ugly on the back end. We'll take a look at a couple potential roster moves the Wings may look at in the near future, and we'll also look at the week ahead. And so, let's dive in. Detroit topped Tampa Bay last Friday 2-1 with Axel Sandin Pellikka scoring his first career goal on the exact same date 34 years later, and I still can't believe this. The 34 years later that Nicholas Lidstrom and Vladimir Konstantinov, 2 of the greatest Red Wings defensemen of all time, ASP scored on the exact same date. I think that is amazing. Score remained tied at 1 before Dylan Larkin ended in OT on a nifty breakaway. Wings did suffer a big loss when Patrick Kane crashed into the boards late in the game. He left with an upper body injury that we'll talk more about in a bit. On Sunday, the Wings defeated Edmonton 4-2 in a game that featured Emmett Finney's first 2 career goals. Larkin added 2 goals as well, his 4th and 5th of the season. That capped off quite a start. Saw him earn the NHL's first star of the week with 5 goals and 4 assists for 9 points. People were getting quite giddy over this team, and I'll admit I was probably one of them. Saw a lot of posts throughout the hellscape that is social media about, well, how do you feel about the Eyes are playing now and this and that? But Wednesday rolled around and the Wings looked extremely sluggish in a 4-2 loss to the Sabres. The box score didn't really tell a story for this one as the numbers across the board were close to even, but the Sabres started rookie Colton Ellis, who of course shut the Wings down in his NHL debut. Wings had chances in this one, a lot of missed breakaways. ASP and Evanson had a tough night at the defensive front as well. Silver lining was Finney potted another and it continues to impress. But at the end of the day, the 5-game winning streak was over. The Wings tinkered the lineups on Thursday. DeBrink had joined Larkin and Finney on the top line, moving Raymond down to play with Kopp and Casper. Tonight was probably the ugliest loss so far, even worse than the home opener against Montreal. A lot of puck watching, and the Yzerman haters reared their ugly heads once again on social media. Red Wings had 2 separate 7-game winning streaks last season, and we all know how that turned out. Starting to feel like that a little bit again. Tony, it's hard to come up with a lot of positives after these last 2 performances, and I'm going to ask you to try your best, try to keep me and Devin sane today. What were your takeaways from this week?
Well, when you look at Detroit's when you looked at Detroit's schedule entering the season, we all knew that the first 6 to 8 games were going to be an absolute gauntlet for this team. Like, strength of schedule wise, it couldn't have been any worse for the Red Wings. The fact that they're 5-3 through 8 games, that's probably better than most thought. Let's be honest here. 6-2 would have been better. 7-1 would have been better, but beggars can't be choosers, you know? Like, if we told you that the Red Wings would be 5-3 through the first 8 games of the season, there would probably be a lot of hell yeahs, not like it could have been better. On top of that, Devin, let me ask you something. What if I told you that you had prime Datsuk, prime Zetterberg, prime Franzen, Nicholas Lidstrom, Chris Osgood, Brian Rafalski, Marian Hossa, Valtteri Filppula? You'd be all for that, right?
Sure.
So I had a weird deja vu during this game on Thursday night that took me back somehow 16 years. The Red Wings played a god-awful game against Columbus and lost 8-2. And they went to this is the year after they won the Cup in 2008, went to the Cup finals again in 2009. But I don't know why that game stuck out to me. It was like, why it was probably because it was so awful, let's be honest. But like, I don't know why I had this memory from 16 years ago. But if that team can get crushed by the lowly Columbus Blue Jackets, that gives me some hope or indication that, like, yes, every team has a few bad games during the season, and that does not define them whatsoever, right?
I'm just surprised you can remember that far back, man. I can't tell you what I had for breakfast today. That's amazing.
When
man.
it comes to hockey stuff, it's almost a problem. Like, I don't know why I just got the deja vu to that game. Like, I was literally in college, like, watching that. Like you got to be kidding me. These guys are awful. There's no way they're going to repeat. Yet they go to the finals anyway and come within a goal of winning a back-to-back Stanley Cups. So again, I don't think one game defines the season. There's a lot to learn from the game against the Islanders for sure. There should be changes. There should be, players brought up, players potentially waived. Something needs to change apart from their attitude.
Absolutely love the idea that sometime in the distant future, Tony will be telling his grandchildren about this awful game the Red Wings played against the Blue Jackets back in 2008-09. I absolutely love that.
Emmett Jr.? Is that what you're talking about? Emmett
Yeah,
Jr.?
It'll be Emmett's son, Emmett Jr. So I'll be in my rocking chair just telling them about the days of Datsuk and Zetterberg, and man, Chris Osgood wasn't as good as he used to be, but then again, he took us to the finals. So
yeah, I'm sure those kids will love to hear that.
This is a complete tangent, but like, in 40 years, do you think the NHL is still going to exist? Because I've been like, I thought about that like in the past for like all the major sports leagues. Like, it's been a long time since they started, but will it ever get to a point when they end? Like,
I don't think
I know
so.
we're going off the early.
Not in Canada.
Like, this is what happens when the Red Wings lose 7-2. You think that?
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
What? Shit gets weird? We go off the rails?
You can tell we want to talk about anything other than the last couple of games.
Well, we're trying to stay positive. Doom and gloom just doesn't sell these days.
No, go to Twitter for that.
Devin, give us some positive takes from this week. Things that you actually saw that you liked. And like, let's try to wipe out these last 2 games, although we can still talk about it a little, but give us some positive takes, because there were some at the beginning of the week.
Well, I think right now the biggest positive I have, and maybe it's just, you're still coasting off of rookie fever a bit, but Emmett Finney's still at the top of rookie scoring. I know it's, we're 8 games in and that means basically nothing, but the dude's producing and he looks like he belongs next to Dylan Larkin on that top line. I think that he obviously, there's a lot of things going for him. He's a 7th round pick. No one thought he'd be on the team this year. There's just a lot of things going for him right now, but for him to also be right there with Matthew Shea for rookie scoring, that's just a heck of a story right now. I really, really hope that we get to continue to monitor this throughout the year, because that'd be a heck of a storyline to kind of be on top of this year. And then also Michael Nygaard, he got his first career NHL point in that game against the Islanders. He had an assist I'm sure he didn't really care about on Jonathan Berggren's garbage time goal to make it 7-2, but hey, first career points finally behind him. Not the type of game you want to get it in, but at the end of the day, he was the only rookie who hadn't had a point yet. So good on him for finally hitting the score sheet. And then also, for what it's worth, Dylan Larkin still has his point streak going. It's kind of crazy how no matter what the games are, because the Red Wings have been in a wide variety of them, even though there's only been 8 of them, they've all kind of been a little bit different. Larkin continues to produce throughout them. And that's, even in games where I like that one against the Islanders, you'd like to see your captain still finding ways to create positives for the team. So from a production standpoint, you're getting production from guys you want to see it from, and you're seeing continuous positives from the young guys. If nothing else, if this is very much a statement that you're saying off of 2 straight losses, but if this season doesn't go the way the Red Wings want it to, at the very least, you can hope that the 3 kids still have a really strong rookie season. They're off to a good start. And I think that at the very least, it seems like there's plenty to kind of cheer for and kind of keep track of to stay entertained throughout this season. It's a long season. I know once we get into January, there's going to be times where we're like, it feels like we're talking about the same thing over and over again. It happens every season. But at least this season, there's already a handful of different things that are at least worth mentioning. So despite the 5-3 record, and I do agree with your assessment there, Tony, I think you ask most people if you would take 5 out of the first 8 to begin the season. I think most people would take that. So even with the losses being the way they are and against the teams they were against, it's not enough to make the season sour all of a sudden. I'm not back to where we were after opening night by any means.
Another thing that is a positive from the season so far, and guys, like, look, again, to reiterate, Thursday night's game against the Islanders sucked. It sucked in all facets. It was god awful. It was the worst effort and worst execution I've seen from this team in a long, long time. We are not like saying, hey, everything's all, great. Like, we're just focusing on some of the positives right now because there are a lot of negatives that need to be addressed, but there are also some good things that are working out that need to be, called out. Another thing is the penalty kill. The Red Wings entered the day killing off 88.9% of power plays against. That is, entering the day, that was 6th best in the league. Might I remind you that the Red Wings had the worst penalty kill last year, 70.1%. And on top of that, they killed off 3 more power plays again today. Something is going right here. They took a god-awful penalty kill. They turned it into a good penalty kill. It's not just Mason Appleton joining the team. He's been great, but it's not just him. It's been a strategy and execution thing that is causing this difference here. Also, goalies, holding up their end of the bargain a little bit more. That does help. But this should give you some confidence that this coaching staff can make tweaks to better this team. And right now, after, losing 4-2 and then losing 7-2 and back-to-back nights, know that this coaching staff does have the ability to go in there and tinker with things and come and have the Red Wings come out and be better from it. Because there's a lot that could be fixed at 5-on-5. There were a lot of missed assignments. There were a ton of passengers tonight for the Red Wings. But all those things can be fixed. Because if penalty kill can be fixed, anything can be fixed.
Anyone a little bit worried about Patrick Kane going into the boards in that Tampa game?
This might be a hot take, but I do think Patrick Kane should get some credit as Detroit's MVP. He clearly has value to this team. Without Patrick Kane, the Red Wings are 1-2. The one against Edmonton was a nice one, for sure. The next 2 games, offense could not generate much of anything. And honestly, in the Edmonton game, the bottom 3 lines didn't generate a whole lot of anything. It was mostly Larkin's line doing the heavy lifting there. So just having that quality of player on the second line and balancing out DeBrincat, giving Casper another outlet for a quality player. Dare I say the Red Wings were worse without Kane than they were without Raymond? I mean, let's be honest, the team still did pretty well when Lucas Raymond was out of the lineup. I'm not saying that he should be out of the lineup again this season, but when Patrick Kane was out of the lineup, this team looked very different from the team that was on the ice when he was in the lineup that night. I don't know. There's a little Showtime magic there, and it's definitely lacking as of late.
Yeah, I wasn't super worried when it first happened, especially because it very much seemed like it was a minor thing, and it's kind of snowballed since then. But since they've started to play games with a Patrick Kane, my concern level has risen substantially, I'd say. I think you've you've perfectly stated like all the reasons why, Tony. It's your lineup is just more balanced with him in there. And I think you really got to see what that balance looks like now that he's not there. The second line does not look anywhere near as dangerous without Patrick Kane there. And then that has a domino effect or a waterfall effect down the line. If the third line doesn't look as good, the fourth line doesn't look as good. That's why, like you just said, you got the Larkin line doing pretty much everything and everyone else is just doing their best to be there, I guess. I don't know. It is weird. I don't, maybe it's a symptom of a larger problem where one player's missing and your whole team looks out of sorts. Now, when it's Dylan Larkin, as we've seen in past years, that makes sense. That's your top line center. That's your captain. This, that, all sorts of reasons why that makes sense. Patrick Kane is not any of those things. Still a very good top six player, but he's somebody that theoretically they should be able to survive without. And like you said, they looked worse without him than they did with Lucas Raymond. And I think most people would tell you Lucas Raymond's a better player today than Patrick Kane. So there's definitely, like you said, some Showtime magic there, maybe some veteran stabilization, however you want to describe it, and then just what it does to the lineup. It's interesting. I think a week ago we were kind of all thinking, man, this team is actually really deep. They can roll four lines and be successful, and now one player's gone and know that they have even three lines. So maybe there's a window into how they can potentially improve their team in the future because of this injury.
So hypothetically speaking, Patrick Kane's back in the lineup Saturday against the St. Louis Blues back in Detroit. What other lineup changes are you making, Devin?
Well, I think the biggest thing for the Red Wings offense right now is that Alex DeBrincat needs to score a goal. A lot of it's not his fault. I mean, he's getting some real bad breaks. Some crazy things are happening. He's just snake bitten. It's a lot of really good players go through this, but right now I think my key thing I'm focusing on here is we got to get DeBrincat going, because without DeBrincat going, you're really hoping that Larkin and Raymond are scoring goals, because DeBrincat's supposed to be your goal scorer. So I'm probably reuniting that Larkin, Raymond, DeBrincat line on the top line. I don't know that that's going to be a permanent thing, but it's very much a way to try to spark DeBrincat, maybe get a different look down the lineup. Finney, I think that's where things get maybe a little interesting. I think Finney maybe joins Kopp and Comfer on the third line, and Brensik Nygaard maybe joins Kane and Kasper. I think there's a lot of different things you can play with, but I think the first move I'm making is I'm putting DeBrincat, reuniting DeBrincat with Larkin and Raymond, and then maybe I have to experiment a little bit, as you go through the next couple of games to figure out what the rest of it looks like. But you certainly have some options. What about you, Tony? What kind of moves are you thinking?
Well, again, trying to stay positive, going to be negative for a second here. I do think Michael Rasmussen needs a night or multiple in the press box. Gaffes aside, he just does not look comfortable with the puck at all. There's no confidence there. And it might be beneficial for him to, sit out a couple games, get his head back on straight, and, try again on the West Coast road trip. It's that same sort of, the same sort of treatment of Elmer Soderblom. He was in the lineup, took him out. His first game back in, dude was on fire. He was playing like he did not want to be, out of the lineup again. Why not do the same thing with Rasmussen? He's not contributing a whole lot of value right now. The one thing that he can hang his hat on is that, he spent some time on the penalty kill, and the penalty kill's been doing well collectively. But just there were some really, really bad turnovers in the Islanders game. And again, he looks like a player who had, and I'm dating myself on this, the Sakic curve on his stick. You know what I'm talking about? The deep curve on the stick. And then someone gave him a fully flat blade and said, here, go play with this. That's what he looks like stick handling the puck right now and carrying the puck, because it does not look comfortable, and he needs to get his confidence back, because the Red Wings are going to need him down the road. Like he does when he's on his game, when he's playing physical, when he's forcing the issue, he's a valuable player. But when he's not, you saw what happened when he's not. So
Rasmussen's become the new whipping boy in Detroit. You saw that all over the weekend.
Gotta be someone.
I'm really curious. Do you guys, because I remember, I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago, Rasmussen exiting the lineup. He had an injury in a game against the Lightning. him leaving the lineup was like the Cop last year where he got injured and then the team just went south. It was Rasmussen 2 or 3 years ago that happened to, and then the team just went south. I'm curious, do you guys have any theories as to what happened to Rasmussen? Because this is not the same player that he was 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, it kind of looked like he had figured out, what kind of player he needed to be and what his fit was, not just with the Red Wings, but in the NHL in general. And now, like I think you described it perfectly, Tony. It's like he's scared. It's almost like he's an 18-year-old rookie who's scared of the bright lights. He can't handle the puck with confidence. He doesn't know what to do out there. He's making, he's just like completely unaware on the ice. It's crazy. I've never seen a player look as much of a shell of himself as Rasmussen, and it's not a player that's like old. So it's like, oh, his best days are behind.
I'm glad you brought that up because Travis, our boy from Hockeytown West podcast, was texting me last night while we were going back and forth and demeaning the team. And we were talking about Rasmussen and the heat he's taking now on all social media platforms. And he brought up this interesting point. He says 2021 and 22, with Rasmussen in the lineup, it's a .525 points percentage. Without him, .388.
Yeah, it speaks to what Devin was saying, that one season when Rasmussen got hurt and then was out of the lineup, the team just went downhill real fast. As for what's going on right now, I think it's just it has to be a confidence issue. Evan, I really thought that was a bottle of Jack Daniels. I won't lie.
And would that be wrong?
No.
After that game?
Not after this game.
We should all have our own bottle.
Just straight. I love it.
It's funny because I get that at work all the time because
Downing
it's
a bottle of
Pure Leaf green tea.
Yesterday last week it was the Butterfinger that was distracting. This week it was the
bottle of Jack off the rails once again.
Yeah,
got to talk about Rasmussen.
No, and it's a confidence thing, and honestly, I hope taking some time to recenter himself and figure out how he can be an effective NHL player again, and getting support from the coaching staff. I think they'll be better for the Red Wings in the long run, but he needs a couple nights off just to soak it all in.
And you can't really blame him if he doesn't. I mean, like I said, he's probably hearing it. Today's athletes have got to see what people are saying on social media unless they're completely ignorant of it. But yeah, it does look like he's lost his confidence. He got caught puck watching today. You saw his head just turn and drop. But I don't know. He's in and out of the lineup. That's going to happen. And there's kids he's probably in that boat where he's seeing these young kids and hey, man, maybe I don't have a future here. And that's something that's hard to process as a professional athlete, I'm sure. I wouldn't know, but that's what it kind of feels like with him. He's going to take the brunt of it. For Detroit always has a whipping boy every season, Jonathan Ericsson, Justin Hall, Eric Gustafsson, Danny DeKaiser. I mean, I could go on for another hour, but looks like he's going to take it this year.
I'm curious, do either of you think that his move back to center is contributing to things? He's played primarily on the wing the last season for sure, and I think most of the season prior as well. But this year he's been down the middle the entire time. I'm curious if either you think maybe that's contributing here.
I don't know, because against Florida, his line with Van Riemsdyk and Soderblom, they played great as a unit. And Soderblom, I think, had his best game of the season. And even going back to last season, probably a top 5 game from him. That said, I do think Rasmussen would be better off on the wing. Just that the center position needs to have that awareness of when you're a wing, you can get away with a little bit more. Or if there's a lack of awareness, it's not as obvious. And I think that's probably better suited for him. Red Wings have Larkin, Kasper, Kopp, Comfer. Danielson's practicing again with the Griffins. So they have centers. They don't have to play Rasmussen at center. In fact, if we're adjusting the lineup, I would rather see Kopp as the center and Rasmussen as one of the wings on his line with either Appleton or Soderblom. But just give him an assignment, put him on one of those shutdown lines and let that be his role. And if there's any offense, great. Physicality, great. But as long as the opponents aren't scoring, that works for me. We've seen it work in the past. Why not run that, checking line back again?
I think a lot of people are also, I know that people are frustrated because they feel like he doesn't use his size and that he's not a physical enough player. That's what really bothers people.
I would be curious to see if there are any moves made either before Saturday's game or before Tuesday's game Carter Mazur has been on a heater in Grand Rapids. Danielson is healthy again, and I'm sure he'll need a game or two to ramp up. Devin, I don't know. Like it seems like, and to quote you, it seems like there's some guys in the ring cam right now in Grand Rapids, and there's some passengers on the Red Wings. Like, who's to say that moves won't be made?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I guess this is a good segue for me to give myself a shameless plug here. But I did actually just put out an article today as we're recording. Thursday, if you're listening to this any other day, where I highlighted the boost that veterans Eric Gustafson and Justin Hall have given or brought to the Griffins. This is kind of a weird segue, because I'm talking about these two veterans, but don't worry, I'm going to make it relate here. And it's been early. The Griffins have only played 4 games, but you can already tell what they're bringing to the blue line in Grand Rapids, and what just kind of like the embarrassment of riches that Grand Rapids has at the organizational level on the blue line right now. Now, having said that, you're right. I think changes are coming. I don't know if they're coming in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, whatever, but change is absolutely coming. They got to make room for some guys, and there's very clearly some spare parts on the roster right now. And there's also, it just also feels like, from my perspective, still kind of talking about Detroit here, the bottom 6, it's very much hit or miss. There's that Comfer and MBN line that I think looks good more often than not, but there've been times where they kind of just are there. They don't contribute to the wave of attack like you'd like to see. They don't do it consistently enough, at least. And then that fourth line, sometimes they're really good. They're able to forecheck and they're able to suppress defensively, but then there's other times where they're all invisible, and you're kind of seeing, all right, when's the first or second line going to come out, because they aren't doing anything when the bottom 6 is out there. So I think that there's maybe a need for a shakeup in the bottom 6, and maybe you need to inject a little bit of youthful enthusiasm there as well. Now, with that being said, the theme of the year seems to be, let's go with the youth. Let's inject youth in the lineup. They've already got 3 rookies. Why not add a few more, right? Like you said, Tony, Carter Mazur is absolutely off to a heater in Grand Rapids. He was kind of the forgotten man when we were talking about young players in the preseason and the training camp, because of, what Emmett Finney did, what Michael Nygaard did, et cetera, et cetera. But Carter Mazur got that call up last season for a reason, and he's definitely out to prove it right now. He's got 6 points in his first 4 games with the Griffins, including 4 goals, so averaging a goal per game. And he's playing his signature game. He's playing with intensity. He's playing with snarl. He's playing with confidence, too. And it's the kind of confidence that you get when you've been successful at this level before, and he has. He's a bona fide top 6 player for the Griffins, and I think that it won't be long before he gets another look in Detroit. And I think that, like I said, the bottom 6 could use a jolt, and I think that he's the exact type of player that would provide that. I'm not really sure where I would put him and who I would pair him with and what that would look like, because I think once he shows up, he's going to earn his keep. Once he does that, he also has the skill set to kind of move up and down. I wouldn't be surprised if he fills that Finney role next to Dylan Larkin at some point this season, because the dude can score. He's scrappy. He does all those. I used to compare him to Tyler Bertuzzi all the time when I was talking about him, a few years ago, and I still think that comparison's pretty solid. And then, like you said, Nate Danielson, I'm going to say he's knocking on the door. He's in that ring camera because he was doing that, or he was in the camera based on preseason. It very much seemed like all signs were pointing to him earning a spot on the roster. And I don't think that the injury necessarily deterred that. So I think as long as he looks good, once he gets those ramp up games in Grand Rapids, again, you're going to need to make room for him somehow, whether that's putting someone on waivers, trading someone for a draft pick. There's a lot of rumors that Red Wings are trying to move one of their extra guys. And then for what it's worth, I'll throw it out there. This is how I'm going to circle it back to my article. I do think Eric Gustafson very clearly does not belong in the AHL. He obviously has his issues defensively, at least at the NHL level, but it's very obvious that, at least offensively speaking, he's a very gifted defenseman. He's already kind of taken command of the Griffins' power play. I think that I don't imagine he's going to be the Griffins very long, to be honest with you. I think that if there is a move, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets sent to like San Jose, a team that could just use a few more veterans to fill out the lineup and has salary cap space to burn. But yeah, while he's in Grand Rapids, I think that players like William Wallander and Shai Bunim do well to really just soak up as much as they can from him, not just from an offensive standpoint, but also just how he prepares. He's played over 500 NHL games. That's a lot of experience. He's been in all sorts of situations. He's played with at least half a dozen teams. I think it might be 7 actually, but he's, like I said, he's been here, he's been there. He's been a guy who produced over 50 points with Chicago, and then he's been a guy who was kind of a hot and cold. People liked him sometimes, people didn't like him other times. In Detroit last season, he's been all over the place. He's been in every type of role, and I think that is also experience that the young kids in Grand Rapids can draw from too. So while he's down there, that's great, but he probably belongs in the NHL. And for what it's worth, if it were up to me, I don't know that Travis Hamonic would have made the final roster. I think Erik Gustafsson might instead, but that's neither here or there. But the players that we're really interested in, though, Erik Gustafsson's not part of the future here. Carter Mazur is, and I think that he's in that ring camera. He's got his face right up to the camera. In fact, you know who's there. He's you gonna let me in? Hello. I think the Steve Eisenman and the Red Wings just need to open the door.
Would you be shocked if he's the jolt that they call up for the West Coast trip?
I would not, and I actually think there's a very, very high chance of that being the case, especially with Danielson seemingly ready to go. That kind of creates a roster spot in Grand Rapids too by calling up Mazur.
Just want to mention that there are some legs to the rumor of Red Wings reportedly being on the trade block. Elliot Friedman brought it up on Monday's episode of 32 Thoughts, and he said, and I quote, "Detroit has extra players now. They have Erik Gustafsson in the American Hockey League. He's not an AHL player. They've also got Justin Hall, who they've been trying to move for a bit, but he's there too." He also said, "It'll be interesting to see what Eiserman decides to do there. Does he keep them?" He also mentioned Jonathan Berggren in that episode, and in reference to the players like Emmett Finney and Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard stepping into more prominent roles and kind of jumping past Berggren on the depth chart, saying some of these guys, Finney, Brandsegg-Nygaard, are making such an impact that I think other guys like Berggren too could be available. I also said that I think the Eiserman's got some players that he's trying to move just because suddenly he's got too many of them or a lot of the same of them. And we've brought this up a couple times, but this is what happened with Olli Maatta last year. The Red Wings had an abundance of defensemen. They wanted to get Albert Johansson into more NHL games, and Olli Maatta was expendable, and they moved him to Utah for a 3rd-round pick. And that's something that, they can do again with Erik Gustafsson. Jonathan Berggren, he seems like a prime change of scenery candidate. A couple of the teams that I was looking at for just, those who need warm bodies, really, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Rangers could probably use a jolt. Gustafsson played some good hockey for the Rangers, so, maybe there's a reunion there, especially with that team looking to turn things around a little bit. But, I do think that there's something coming. Like, I know there's not going to be a blockbuster, but I think that this team has shown well so far playing the young players and taking that time away that, veterans would be playing in and giving it to Emmett Finney, giving it to Axel Sandin-Pellikka, giving it to Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard. And obviously these guys are going to have mistakes. They're rookies. They are just learning the league. They're definitely going to make, these loud gaffes or errors or what have you, but they're being forced into these prominent roles. And, all things considered, they're doing pretty well. So why not throw Carter Mazur into the lineup? Why not throw Nate Danielson into the lineup? It's a young team, but you have good leadership in Larkin, Raymond, and Seider of guys who are going to give it their all every single night. So why not throw Mazur in or Danielson in place of a passenger who just is not, carrying their weight and either waving them or moving them? I think there's going to be some sort of indication that the future is now. And if you're not, living up to expectations, then we're going to do something about it. We're not going to be comfortable with complacency. So that's my viewpoint. Again, not a blockbuster by any means, but enough of a shake to make people feel a little uncomfortable and want to make sure that they're giving it their all every night because they may be on the chopping blocks sooner rather than later.
And I think it'll be interesting to see who they move, when they decide to make a move, who they move. I'm going to say that again. It'll be interesting to see when they do make a move, it'll be interesting to see who they move and then what that does to the lineup, because yeah, you can move Giannis and Berggren, but when the lineup's fully healthy, he wasn't necessarily part of the lineup. So you can't say, we're going to move Berggren and bring in Carter Mazer. Yeah, like then Carter Mazer doesn't necessarily have a spot yet. So that kind of gets into what we're talking about maybe with Rasmussen. Maybe because you brought up Carter Mazer, now you have a reason to sit Rasmussen because Mazer's got to play, right? Maybe that makes it so guys like JT Compher is now going to sit a game because you brought up Nate Danielson. Like it's not enough to trade your spare guys that aren't playing and call up a guy, because at the end of the day, the guys you're calling up, you want in the lineup. So you have to create a spot in the lineup, not just the roster. So I guess now that I've over-explained the situation, what I'm saying here is it'll be interesting to see, besides who they get rid of, who they move out of the lineup to then make room for who they're bringing up.
And make sure we preface this too. None of these guys are going to bring back anything more than a late round pick. But as we've seen, Steve Yzerman loves his late round picks.
The one player that I'm curious about is Jonathan Berggren, because like he had a great game against Buffalo. Like credit where credit's due. He played well. He earned another spot in the lineup on Thursday night against the Islanders. Scored a goal in garbage time, but a goal's a goal. And I do see him like as a change of scenery candidate. I think I just mentioned those exact same words about 5 minutes ago. But I could certainly see him like going, what I have in my head is like Berggren and something for Lucas Reichel and something, or just those two are the main components of the deal. Two players who like need to be somewhere else and kind of start fresh. And I think, I don't know, like Blashill has seen, in the system, he knows him from training camps and everything. So there may be interest there. So he's the one player who I think that the Red Wings could give back something of value that's not just a draft pick or like a lower tier prospect.
That's going to do it for episode 57. Red Wings' next game is Saturday versus the Blues at LCA. Then they'll hit the road and travel to St. Louis to play the Blues again on Tuesday before flying out my way to Los Angeles to take on the Kings and Ducks next Thursday and Friday. We'll be back next Thursday to recap these games and give our unbiased opinions on the team and where they stand in the thick of things. Before we let you go, though, just want to remind you where you can find us. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Flying Octopod. Follow us on Twitter at Flying Octopod. And you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to this week with the Wings coming out to the West Coast. Not happy about the fact that the Ducks game is on Halloween because, as we mentioned last week and Tony pointed out, I'll be taking my daughter out for trick-or-treating, and she's very fired up to dress me up as one of those K-pop demon hunter things that I still don't understand what they are. But there's a small window that I may be able to sneak into the Kings game on Thursday, but there's a lot of moving parts to that, so we'll have to see. That will get her done for episode 57. See you next week. I'm going back to my Jack Daniels. Thank you, Tony. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.